Så, fungerar ljudet på den här? Ja. Allow me to give you a warm welcome to today's press conference at the Our Baltic Conference here in Stockholm, Sweden. Let me start by welcoming our speakers today. We have the EU Commissioner responsible for Fisheries and Oceans, Costas Kadis. We have the EU Commissioner responsible for Environment, Water Resilience and the Competitive Circular Economy, Jessika Roswall. We have the Swedish Minister for Rural Affairs, Kullgren, and the Swedish Minister for Climate and Environment, Pourmokhtari. We will start with a few introductory remarks from each one of them and then open up for questions. So, Commissioner Kadis, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone, and thank you for being here today as we gather for the third edition of the Our Baltic Conference. As you all know, we are at a critical juncture for the Baltic Sea, a vital ecosystem that supports marine life, coastal communities, and the livelihoods of many people. Despite progress in some areas, the overall health of the Baltic Sea is deteriorating, and we must address this with urgency and determination, and by adopting a holistic approach. And that is why we discuss this, the challenges that the Baltic Sea faces with ministers of environment, ministers of agriculture, and ministers responsible for fisheries. So let's start with facts. Several fish stocks are in decline, posing significant threats to our fishers and our local communities. And this is the result of a complex web of challenges, including climate change, eutrophication, pollution, misreporting possibly leading to overfishing, habitat destruction. These are some of the pressures on the ecosystem of the Baltic Sea. Therefore, this is not a crisis caused by a single factor, nor can it be solved by a single measure. It demands a comprehensive and coordinated approach. The same approach is adopted in the European Ocean Pact, the first ever holistic EU strategy for the preservation and sustainable management of our ocean, which brings together science, policy and practice to forge solutions that deliver real results. So I will make some comments on the fisheries angle. On the fisheries side, we have robust legislation and tools like the Baltic Sea multi-annual plan, the Common Fisheries Policy Regulation and the Fisheries Control Regulation. But they must be fully enforced to be effective. Recent years have shown us the consequences of unmanaged crisis. We have seen the loss of eastern and western cod stocks and western Baltic herring, and the closure of salmon fishing in certain areas. And now, our scientific community, they repeated it today, they are warning us about the fragility of pelagic stocks like Bothnian and Central herring and sprat. And these stocks are at some of the lowest levels ever recorded. And losing them would be catastrophic. So the Commission is not willing to gamble with the future of our fishers or our ecosystems. Therefore, for 2026, we propose fishing opportunities that take into account that the Baltic Sea ecosystem is in a not favorable state, and fragile fish stocks are less likely to recover in an ecosystem under stress. So an ecosystem-based approach to fisheries management is essential for accelerating recovery and ensuring long-term sustainability. Fisheries are a vital part of the Baltic Sea's economy, and we owe it to our citizens and fishers to protect this resource. Moreover, our fishers should be part of the solution, and they should contribute to the development and implementation of the recovery measures for the Baltic Sea. At the end of the day, these are the people who experience what happens every day in the Baltic Sea, and their opinion should certainly be taken into account. In addition, we need to bolster our national scientific institutions, ensuring they have the resources necessary to focus not only on how much we fish, but also on how to fish with less impact. So together, and that was the clear willingness of the participants of this conference. Together we can ensure a sustainable future for the Baltic, safeguarding this precious sea for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Roswall, the floor is yours.
And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Baltic Sea is in one way my home, so with that, of course, I'm very happy to welcome my colleague, Costas Kadis here, and I'm happy to be here with former colleagues. But it's also where some of the challenges that we are facing here in the Baltic Sea is at a critical point, and that is due to reckless and unacceptable violation. I will start with also to say that what I want to say is also what the very many difficult challenges that the Baltic Sea has at the moment. One is the unacceptable violation of the European airspace above the Baltic Sea in the recent days. That also has highlighted on the region's growing security concerns. And these are also connected with economical difficulties and what we have discussed so far in the morning, also the ecosystem challenges and also the rapid climate change. And here this is for me very clear that we need to urgently act and for many reasons, but also for the region's resilience. And this means, as my colleague has said, that means sustainable fisheries management and also support to coastal communities while also addressing major environmental degradation. I want to start with 2 points. First, the environmental, economical and security challenges that are facing the Baltic Sea. As I said, they are interconnected and we need to address them together. And the second one is, and with other challenges that EU is facing, also wider place, in the wider sense, collaboration and cooperation is key. And the Baltic Conference is an opportunity to reaffirm our commitments to the region and to recommit to an integrated approach to these challenges that we have, and also to renew our support for coastal communities. The Baltic Sea is a historical shape by its unique geography and it has its strategic importance and also for thousands of years a trade and cultural diversity. However, decades of unsustainable human pressure, overfishing and legacy and pollution, aggravated also by the climate changes, have left the sea in a very poor state. Fishing stocks are collapsing because of unsustainable practices, and the marine environment is suffering. Small-scale coastal fisheries may make up the vast majority of fishing boats in the Baltic Sea. They account for more than 90% of the fishing boats and more than 60% of the employments. So a dying Baltic Sea means a dying local small-scale fishery industry, and we risk to losing a vital part of our region's culture. The bad news is stark, and we must take it as a call for action. The good news is that we have solutions at our fingertips. Commissioner Kadis and the ministers and I have had here show political determination to restore the Baltic Sea and protect its richness. Regional measures work well when they are fully implemented. We have the tools to tackle the challenges, and now we need to implement them. First, we will revise the Marine Strategic Framework Directive to make it more simple and more effective. Second, we have a nature restoration regulation that will help restore marine habitats and species, and therefore also the local ecosystems. Third, implementation of the revised Urban Wastewater Directive will decrease the pollution reaching in the seas. And fourth, the Water Resilience Strategy and the European Ocean Pact will work together also to implement the source-to-sea approach developed by the network of marine protected areas and also promote sustainable blue economies. Fifth, the coming EU bioeconomy strategy will launch a blue bioeconomy innovative initiative. And this will unleash, hopefully, the potential of the renewable aquatic biological resources. And it will also help to build this value chain for the benefit of the Baltic Sea, all the Baltic Sea communities. Finally, regional governance through the Helsinki Commission is vital to coordinate the efforts of basin levels. So, ladies and gentlemen, the European Commission is firmly committed to the Baltic Sea, to its ecosystem and its biodiversity, its culture and also its traditions, and so am I, of course. We are determined to help the member states in the region to improve the health of the well-being of the sea, and also for the benefit for the local communities and our economies. So everybody can enjoy this beautiful sea, and of course not only us but also for future that comes. And as I said, together I think we can build a more secure, more resilient and more sustainable Baltic Sea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister Kullgren, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and a warm welcome back to Sweden, Commissioner Kadis, who I had the privilege to bringing to Gotland in March to discuss the challenges we see in the Baltic Sea. Of course, a warm welcome also to Commissioner Roswall, who has visited Sweden a few more times. But warm welcome. And it's a pleasure for us to have this conference here in Stockholm. Sweden has a long coastline. Many people in our country have experienced up close both the benefits that the Baltic Sea provides, but they also are aware and worried about the problems. And this calls for political action. We welcome that the conference is here in Stockholm. It gives us an additional opportunity to share our knowledge and our message. As the Swedish Minister for Fisheries, there are certain points I want to emphasize during this conference, and let me just mention a few. We need restrictive fishing opportunities to enable a recovery. Sweden advocates for reduced fishing pressure on example, herring. The negative development of fish stocks simply must be reversed. And the fishing opportunities are one of the pieces of the puzzle. The fishing opportunities will be decided at the Council in the end of October. And this is again an opportunity to present Swedish perspective and try to influence other member states. Furthermore, as Sweden has previously conveyed among other occasions during the evaluation of a common fishery policy, that we believe that a mandate to scientific advice from ICES on the fishing opportunities needs to be developed and to a greater extent include the ecosystem efforts of fishery and the influencing factors such as seals and cormorants. And we see that growing populations of seals and cormorants affect fish stocks. The management of these predators needs to be more clearly integrated into maritime policy. And to facilitate hunting and achieve better management, we see certain needs for change at the EU level, and this issue shared by many Baltic countries. And therefore, this conference is an opportunity to discuss these shared issues. So to summarize my message, reduced fishing pressure on herring, increased hunting pressure on seals and cormorants, and the development of scientific advice. And I would once again like to thank you for hosting this conference in Sweden and Stockholm.
Thank you, Minister. Then Minister Pourmokhtari. over to you.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd also like to welcome our dear commissioners, Costas, Kadis and Jessika Roswall, to Sweden. Let me get straight to the point. The critical situation of the Baltic Sea requires that all sectors affecting the marine environment work together between politicians responsible for the fisheries and responsible for the fish. We need to pull in the same direction and work towards the same goal. In my hometown, I've seen the eagles return to become a common sight, and I've seen the water quality in our harbors improve. Yet today we see extensive eutrophication, oxygen-free bottoms, and what once were flourishing local fisheries supporting our communities with fish and livelihood have now disappeared. And in light of this need to restore our Baltic Sea, the government has taken a comprehensive approach and presented the Marine Environmental Bill, a living sea, increased protection, reduced eutrophication and sustainable fishing. And on the day that the Swedish Parliament adopted this Marine Environmental Bill, the government also adopted a new interim target within the environmental objectives system to accelerate efforts against eutrophication. And since then, the government has implemented a large number of measures presented in the bill. At today's conference, I highlighted some of the decisions that the Swedish government have taken in hopes of inspiring neighboring countries to do the same. I'd like to particularly mention a few. This spring, the government decided to ban the release of scrubber discharges by all ships in Swedish territorial waters. And this ban has already been put into place and has been active since the 1st of July this year. And this will significantly reduce emissions of harmful substances from ships' exhaust gases into our Swedish waters. At the Baltic Sea Conference, we have reaffirmed the need to strengthen the implementation of HELCOM's Baltic Sea Action Plan. And this is a priority issue for the government, and in the 2026 budget we're investing in enhanced implementation of the regional marine action plans for the Baltic Sea as well as the North Sea. And this is an initiative to financially strengthen our measures for a vibrant coast and increased protection of marine biodiversity, sustainable fishing, and efforts against eutrophication and pollution with hazardous substances. And the government has also decided to ban bottom trawling in marine protected areas within the trawling limit, and has tasked the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management with drastically reducing the number of exemption areas for trawling within the trawling limit, known as relocation areas. At the same time, our government is working to permanently move the trawling limit for large pelagic trawlers in the Baltic Sea out to 12 nautical miles from the shoreline. And as part of this effort, trials with an extended trawling limit are already underway in the Baltic Sea. And the government is also working to ensure that we contribute to the 30% protected areas by 2030 as part of this effort. I recently had the honor to inaugurate Sweden's first marine national park in the Baltic Sea, Nämnda Skärgården, in September. And finally, on the issue of fish stocks, clearly our present management hasn't been able to account for the situation that we're facing. And this approach that needs to be taken can be summarized into introducing larger safety margins and setting substantially lower quotas. And this situation is increasingly alarming, and the longer we wait with the proportionate measures, the bigger risks we are taking. And this is a situation that is also common with the matters that my colleague Minister Kullgren just raised. When we take actions against, for example, the cormorants and the seal that are also quite heavily affecting our fish stocks, we gain the respect to also implement measures necessary regarding fisheries and fish quotas. And with recent lawless and reckless behavior by Russia, it is more urgent than ever that we have a resilient ecosystem, a resilient healthy sea, and healthy fish for our food security. So a lot of good work is getting done, but it's not nearly enough. And today we have had very fruitful discussions on how to move forward and better the situation that we are facing in the Baltic Sea. And with that, I think I will hand over back to...
Thank you very much, Minister. Allow me now to open up for questions. May I ask you to please start by stating the media you're working for, and if there's a specific person out of our speakers that you would like to direct the question to. Thank you.
Sanna Svärd from Swedish television, SVT. I have a question for Jessika Roswall. According to a new report from Copernicus, the Baltic Sea is warming up in the second fastest pace in the world. How serious do you think this is, and what actions may or can EU take on this issue?
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, and Europe is the warmest continent in the world, warming up fastest also. So, of course, and that is why we are all here, because the situation is severe. And I will say that the good thing, I mean, we talked about the bad shape of the Baltic Sea, but also the different reason. It is not one reason, it's multiple reasons. And the good thing is that there was this commitment around the table, and as I also stated out earlier, I think for me it's important also that both the Minister of Fisheries and Minister of Environment from the different states are also around, because we need to have a joint commitment to this and also see the possibilities on the actions that we need to do. One thing that so it's urgent, and the cost of doing nothing is getting bigger. But also I heard some say that it's also a benefit, the benefits of doing something economical will also be important. So my takeaway so far from this conference is that there is this sense of urgency, also from the Commission, of course, and we are very committed to do what we need to do. And one thing is, of course, joined together with the Member States, because it's a lot of implementation that needs to be done.
Hi, Jörn Spolander from Dagens Nyheter. I think it's for Mr. Kadis. You all mentioned that there is no single solution to this very complex problem. But talking about fish stocks, could you perhaps please point out the one most effective solution to restore the stocks in the short run, if it's possible?
Well, as I mentioned in my introductory comments, there is no single measure to solve a complex issue. But especially for fisheries, firstly we need to implement what is in the legislation, and we have the legal means. We have the Common Fisheries Regulation. We have the control regulation. They need to address the misreporting, which in certain cases leads to overfishing. And according to the reports from the European Commission, we have observed, unfortunately, in the past, cases of misreporting. And, poor data also affect the scientific advice that we get from ICES. So it's not only that we have overfishing, it's also the impact on the valid advice that we get from ICES. So we have to improve the quality of the data. We have to listen to what the scientists say. And a very timely issue, of course, is the setting of the fishing opportunities for the 2026. As I mentioned earlier, and also in the meeting, the Commission follows what the scientists say, and what their advice is to us. We follow a prudent approach. We propose fishing opportunities, quotas that are lower than the maximum proposal by ICES, because we feel that we have to take into consideration the overall situation in the Baltic Sea, and that fragile stocks are less possible to recover easily in a non-healthy ecosystem.
Gustav Sjöholm, Swedish News Agency TT. To Commissioner Kadis, you have all described the situation as critical, but it doesn't sound like a total fishing ban in the Baltic Sea has been considered. Do you think a total fishing ban would help the Baltic Sea? And if so, why isn't it on the table?
I think that this was not, even in the advice of the scientists, was not an option. So we have, in our decisions, we also have to take into consideration all the pillars of sustainability. Of course, we have to take into consideration the environmental pillar, environmental dimension, and the environmental dimension indicates that we need to be prudent, and that's why we propose fishing opportunities that are even less to what the ICES advises. But we also have to consider the social and economic dimensions of the sustainability and how the sector will be affected by our decisions. So I feel that the proposal of the Commission is reasonable, is prudent. It takes into consideration the clear messages and the advice of the scientific community, and I would be very much pleased if the member states at the forthcoming council in October follow what the European Commission proposes.
I think that one good development regarding not least the Swedish interests in these matters is that the Ocean Pact, which Commissioner has put forward, acknowledges an ecosystem-based management approach. And this is very integral to the Swedish way of looking at these matters. This is integral to our marine bill to integrate the ecosystem-based approach, because if we have an ecosystem-based approach to, for example, how we handle fisheries and not to look at the single species one by one, we gain a better understanding also of what measures need to be taken. So I think that this is one step that goes in the right direction, even though we have all agreed today at the meeting that we need to take further steps forward, and that we definitely need to get more towards the implementation aspects of the legislations that are already in place as well.
Annika Digreus, Swedish Radio. You mentioned your quotas, and there has earlier been so that the member states doesn't really follow your proposals. So how could the Commission make them be more cautious to follow your proposals and take care about the fish stocks?
Well, the October. I remember from the times that I was Minister of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment and Fisheries were under my responsibility, that when I participated at the ministerial meetings of October, the discussions were very tough, and it usually takes 2 days, more than 40 hours of negotiations in order to reach an agreement. So my feeling is that we will have this kind of negotiations also this year. I feel more comfortable and more secure because Sweden is chairing the Baltfish meeting. And I know that my friend Peter is aligned with the approach of the European Commission. So hopefully we will have a consensus between the member states closer to what the Commission proposes.
Thank you very much. More questions?
Jörn Spolander again, Dagens Nyheter. Stupid question perhaps, but this is the third Our Baltic meeting. And as you mentioned, Mr. Kadis, things have just gotten worse since the first one, since the second one. Why should this be a turning point? This is a question to all of you. Feel free.
Firstly, in order not to be, in order to be a little bit optimistic, I wanted to underline the willingness from all the representatives from all the countries to contribute to the recovery of the Baltic Sea. And we also took note today of several important initiatives that have taken place since the first Our Baltic Conference. And one of these initiatives is the Build a Living Sea that the Minister of Environment presented before. So we have listened to similar initiatives. The message of today's meeting is that these are very good examples of actions that we can take, but we need first to accelerate our efforts and then to coordinate different policies. And why this can be a turning point, because around the same table we have ministers of fisheries, ministers of environment, and ministers of agriculture discussing how they can join forces and promote synergies in order to achieve this accelerated recovery for the Baltic Sea. Hopefully by the end of the conference we will have a declaration describing how this can be achieved in practice.
It's a very relevant question. Of course, and that was, I think it was Romina who said it also in the plenary, that we have discussed this, we have known it for a long time, and this is, as you said, the third conference of this type. So as I said, the question is very good. What I take with me is that there is this sense of urgency. As I started with, it's not only the situation of the environmental situation on the Baltic Sea, it's also a security issue, it's also economic issues on this, because we have a lot of industries also depending on a healthy sea. So I would say that this nexus of all these joint challenges is something that we all see, but we also try to see the possibilities. So I would say that is what I feel from this conference, that the sense of urgency is there, but also that the other thing is that we have a lot of legislation that we need to implement. So it's not that we need to start over with new things. And from my part of view, the water resilience strategy is actually pushing also on that we need to take water as a priority, because that is also true from the whole of European Union, that we have taken water for granted too long, and of course the CISOs including that. So that is what I take with me, but I suppose that my comment.
I think Kullgren was.
Yes. Well, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the fish stocks, I think everyone sees what is happening. We have followed the scientific advice for 10 more years, but we still have these decreasing fish stocks. So I think everyone who looks at the numbers needs to understand that we can't do the same thing and expect a different result. Something needs to change. And in the short term, the thing we affect right here, right now, is how large tax and quotas. The second part is we can affect the predators like seals and cormorants. And that's like mid-long term. And the long term, like Romina said, we have done things for the environmental situation in the Baltic Sea. It's going the right direction. It's going slow. That's the long term. We have to do more on that side too. But the things we can affect is the two first I mentioned. And I really hope that we could have the impact during this conference to get more member states to see this the same way we see it. I think it's pretty logical that is what we have on the table. That's the action points we can decide. And I hope we will do that this October.
Thank you very much. Yes.
And looking at the short-term measures which Minister Kullgren is raising, I think that it's, as I mentioned earlier, they need to intertwine. We need to create that respect amongst the fishermen, that we are not only regulating quotas, we are also handling the effects of the predators and the effects that has on fish stocks. And I think that when we take those measures, proper measures, at the cormorants, it's very difficult. It's very much easier to say in Swedish, skarven. When we take proportionate actions towards that, we will also gain a stronger understanding of regulating the fish stocks, which can hopefully lead to more fishermen respecting also the stocks that are set, and us having a lesser problem with the wrong felrapportering, with the difficulties and people not actually living up to the stocks that we have set. So these are heavily intertwined, and they need to go hand in hand, and from Sweden's side they do go hand in hand. And I think that the meeting today is a good step in the right direction, but I will also add that from Sweden's national point of view, I mean, in lack of EU measures that respond to the critical situations we're facing, we will have to implement more and more national measures to balance it out. And this is, of course, a development that we'd like to avoid. So we will keep pushing on the cooperation part, but if the measures necessary are not taken, we will, of course, expand the national measures that we see a need for.
Commissioners, ministers, thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you coming. We will allow you to go back to the conference now.